Then the Sports Center, we go over a college football game preview and prediction on the Week 1 matchup between the Florida Gators and the Utah Utes. A crucial matchup for both teams coming up here in Week 1. You got Florida. This is a team that could be good in 2023. Definitely have the talent to be good, but it could also be a rebuild season that we're heading into for the Gators. But this is a huge opportunity for Florida here as they take on one of the top teams in the country. Utah, the back-to-back Pac-12 champions. This is a team that is built to win right now. Very well could make it to the college football playoff in 2023. And all things considered, this is a huge matchup for them and really for both teams considering the future as we look forward to 2023. We'll be covering a full game preview and prediction on this matchup here today. Let's get started. This matchup being on pretty much opening night at college football, Thursday, August 31st in Salt Lake. Utes are the home team for this matchup. Last season, it was in Gainesville. It was in Florida. And Utah had high expectations heading into 2022 as well. And that had all the makings of being a trap game there for Utah, going to an unfamiliar location, taking on Florida. Gators got the win, and this team being 6-7 last year, they were a good football team. They weren't one of the top teams in the SEC, but that was definitely a loss that tempered expectations for Utah to start out the season, being a team that many consider to be a college football playoff contender. But for Utah this time around, they're favored by a touchdown. Over-under is 46. They're favored in the FPI as well, 68%. And Florida leads the series. These two teams have only played each other twice. Last game obviously being last year, where Florida won it at home 29-26. Stat comparison, Florida last season was halfway decent offensively, 61st in the country in points per game. They were 90th in passage a game, but a strong rushing team, 26th in the country in rush yards a game last season. Anthony Richardson being a big dual threat quarterback definitely contributed to that, and this is a team that was strong in the backfield for sure. And defensively, not terrible, although in comparison to a lot of the teams in the SEC, this team was just not very good. 87th in points allowed, and then 74th in passers allowed, 95th in rush yards allowed. So defensively, not a very strong team last season, and offensively, really on both sides of the ball, we saw this team show potential, but in the end, just too inconsistent of a team to be a contender. But for Utah, 14th in the country in points per game, 29th in points allowed, a strong team on both sides of the ball. You consider they were 51st in passage a game, 11th in rush yards, strong backfield for the Utes. And as far as yards allowed, a strong rush defense for Utah last season, 19th in the country in rush defense. And you're going up against a Florida team that will be very much relying on the run this season. Graham Mertz is the quarterback for the Gators. Wisconsin transfer. Graham Mertz was, I'm not going to lie to you, he was not very good when he was with Wisconsin. And so maybe getting a fresh start is a good thing for him. Maybe he can have a great season in 2023, although I definitely wouldn't expect that. I do think he's still a quarterback that struggled in the Big Ten, and so we'll see if he can have a good season. But the backfield, Montreal Johnson, Trevor Etienne, this is a team that's going to be relying on the run. Probably a decent amount this upcoming season, although they've got some talent in the receiving core for sure, Ricky Pearsall in particular. So there's still a lot of potential offensively, although the defense definitely needs to improve if this team wants to be a contender, or at least good in the SEC this season. But for Utah, you consider this team, Cam Rising, this team is stacked offensively. Davon Vele is back. Money Parks is back. Jaquin Jackson. This is a team that's going to be very strong offensively. And, the Pac-12 in particular, it's kind of wild seeing how the Pac-12 fallout and everything. And, the Pac-12 this season could very well be the second best conference in college football. You got to consider the top 6 teams in the conference or so. All really good football teams, and Utah is definitely one of them. A lot of really good offenses, especially in the Pac-12 this season. Washington, USC, Utah, Oregon. A lot of, really good offenses in the conference this season. And so, it's really as competitive as it's been for a while in the Pac-12. And so for Utah, that, it basically makes it a toss-up who's going to win the conference. But this team is very much, I'd say, built to win right now, and very well could win the Pac-12 and finally advance to the college football playoff this season. If this team wins the Pac-12 again, it'd be 3 times in a row for the Utes, and really, it'd be pretty much the closer to the Pac-12 there. But your key points, Florida 6-7, took several close losses in 2022. This team was competitive against a lot of really good football teams, but did take a lot of close losses, which ended up giving this team a 6-7 record. But Graham Mertz appears to be the starter at quarterback. He's definitely a guy that doesn't have as high of a ceiling as Anthony Richardson did, that's for sure. And I mean, at Wisconsin, he wasn't great. I mean, there's a reason why Wisconsin has relied on the rush so much over the years. It's just the quarterbacks have not always been great for Wisconsin, and Graham Mertz very much a pro-style quarterback. So we'll see what he can do. Defense will need to be improved for sure. I do think if this defense can be great, Florida could be an 8 or 9 win team this season, but it's definitely something to keep an eye on. And for Utah, Utes have been the top power of the Pac-12 in recent years. Past couple of years, really good. They've been really good in the past 5 years or so. But once again, the Pac-12 is very, very competitive this season. I mean, you consider, Oregon, Washington, USC, even UCLA could be up there as well. Utah's up there. I mean, this Oregon State, this is a really stacked conference at the top. So for Utah, obviously every win matters. And I mean, whoever, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a one-loss team in the college football playoff from the Pac-12 this season. It's just, that's how great of a conference it is this season. I mean, I think that's something that people are kind of overlooking. But I mean, also for Utah, I mean, having home field advantage here is crucial. I do think going to Gainesville last year was definitely a trap game there, but having it at home this season in Salt Lake, in your house, night game, definitely much more favorable, I would say, for the Utes this season. So obviously huge game here, and with that, let's get to the prediction. Florida versus Utah, Thursday night, week 1. Who am I going with here? And I do think the Utes win it this season. 31-23 is my predicted final score. I think Utah offensively gets it done, scores 31 here. And I think Florida does keep it close, though, for a while. I am fairly confident that the Utes win this one. I'm going 60% towards the Utes. I mean, they should be the favorite for sure in this matchup. I think Utah should be. I mean, this is a team that is just more complete. They are more talented. And Florida's going to be a bit rusty, especially, I would say, on offense to start the season here. And I mean, Florida still could be a good team. They're from the SEC, a very competitive conference. So 6-7 last season is, I mean, in the Pac-12, Florida could have definitely been more. Even the Pac-12 last season was great, so you never know. But I mean, I do want to go Utah here 60%. I'm taking the over as well. I do think Utah scores a decent amount of points here. And Florida scores enough so that it goes over. And I've got Utah covering the spread in the end. I mean, it's definitely a huge matchup, especially for Utah. I mean, you got to get the season started on the right note, and especially in such a competitive conference in the Pac-12 this season. It's wide open. 5 teams could win that conference this year, and we should very well see a Pac-12 team in the college football playoff. And definitely could be Utah. Cam Rising, this team is built to win right now, and definitely a crucial one. And in the end, I'm going with the Utes. But let me know your thoughts in the comments below on this matchup, and I appreciate you guys all watching as always. Stay tuned for more from All Sports Central. Catch you on the next one.